Hey, everyone. Secretary of State Marco Rubio gave an amazing short speech at the Munich Security Conference the other day. And it was far more than a speech about global security or about national security. It was really about some big issues facing the world, some big civilizational issues, some of the issues that I've been talking about on this channel. So I want to share my thoughts on this speech. Let's go ahead and watch it. It's not very long, just a couple minutes, and then I'll chime in.
For 5 centuries before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now, together with you. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history. What we want is a reinvigorated alliance that recognizes that what has ailed our societies is not just a set of bad policies, but a malaise of hopelessness and complacency. An alliance is the alliance that we want is one that is not paralyzed into inaction by fear of climate change, fear of war, fear of technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future. And the only fear we have is the fear of the shame of not leaving our nations prouder, stronger, and wealthier for our children. An alliance ready to defend our people, to safeguard our interests, and to preserve the freedom of action that allows us to shape our own destiny. Not one that exists to operate a global welfare state and atone for the purported sins of past generations. An alliance that does not allow its power to be outsourced, constrained, or subordinated to systems beyond its control. One that does not depend on others for the critical necessities of its national life. And one that does not maintain the polite pretense that our way of life is just one among many, and that asks for permission before it acts. And above all, an alliance based on the recognition that we, the West, have inherited together. What we have inherited together is something that is unique and distinctive and irreplaceable, because this, after all, is the very foundation of the transatlantic bond.
Okay, I believe this is a remarkable speech. Really stunning. And so here are my thoughts. When Marco Rubio talks about the kind of allies America wants, right? he's actually not talking in abstractions. He's actually describing a very specific type of country. And what struck me when I was listening to him in that part of the speech is that he actually wasn't describing a hypothetical ally. He was actually describing Israel almost word for word. You see, Rubio says that the United States doesn't want weak allies. We don't want allies paralyzed by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture, proud of their heritage, willing and able to defend it. Right? That's already in the U.S. defense doctrine. In the 2026 National Defense Strategy document that was released a few months ago, well, it was actually released last month, I think it was in January, Israel is explicitly described there as, quote, a model ally. And it describes what it means by that. Israel's called a model ally because it's shown that it's both able and willing to defend itself, even at enormous cost, without outsourcing its security to international institutions or waiting for permission from anyone else. That Israel, so and that's discussed in there, meaning exactly what Rubio was saying about what America wants in its allies is that Israel is described as that, with those characteristics, in the National Defense Strategy document. Israel fights its own wars. It absorbs the consequences. It doesn't treat its own survival as, it's not apologetic about it. It doesn't treat it as some sort of moral failing that we're proud of ourselves. That's exactly what Rubio is praising in this speech. And once you see that, something else becomes very clear about this speech. It wasn't just about the allies America wants. It was also about the allies that, frankly, America has been protecting and carrying. Because everything Rubio says about strength and pride and cultural confidence is also an indictment of Europe. So he was pointing a finger at them. Europe didn't lose its power initially. It lost its belief in itself initially. It taught itself that European history was a burden and that its culture was something to apologize for and not worth defending. And once you internalize this kind of self-loathing that Europe fell into, then everything else follows: the military weakness, the dependence on others, the hesitation about making real decisions that are in your national best interest. So Rubio uses the phrase managed decline. And that's a key phrase in this speech. Managed decline means you're no longer trying to win. You're just trying to administer the decay politely. You want to keep things orderly. You want to avoid responsibility for the decline. It's just happening. It's an inevitability. You avoid saying that some civilizations are actually worth preserving and worth fighting for. The moral relativism of the postmodern era is part of the managed decline. It's a lack of confidence in yourself. Israel, as a nation, as a culture, as a people, we reject that logic entirely. We've never accepted the idea that history is just something that happens to you and you have these inevitable outcomes that you have to live with. There would never be a managed decline. The Jewish people and Israel is always extremely hopeful and extremely optimistic about the future and understanding that we have to have our own agency. That's what the whole Zionist movement was about. Israel and the Jewish people never accepted that our survival is guaranteed, and it also never accepted, it never resigned itself to defeat. And we don't view confidence as a sin. So when Israel, this is, I believe, why Israel makes parts of the West uncomfortable, especially in Europe. It's that we're not apologetic, because Israel isn't just fighting terrorists. Israel is also exposing this civilizational struggle that really they're in also. The fact that we're fighting jihadist Muslims and these European nations shake their finger at us and criticize us while they're being taken over by jihadist Muslims, I think that's part of their resentment. Israel is, let me put it this way, Israel is what the West used to be, okay? It's a society that believes that it has the right to exist, that it has the duty to defend itself. It's proud of its culture. It's proud of its heritage. It's proud of its beliefs. and it has the obligation to pass on something stronger to the next generation. These are all things that should be obvious to any culture. But this brings us to the deeper point. What Rubio is really saying here isn't just about, alliances and military spending and America's priorities in terms of its relationships with these countries. He's talking about something much bigger, about whether the West still believes that it is a civilization at all that's worth saving. Civilizations don't survive because they manage decline more effectively, right? They survive because they believe they are worth defending. Israel understands that instinctively. Europe tragically has lost its way in this regard, and that's why Israel has become the West's stress test, right? A society that knows who it is and is proud of that exposes the fact that there are other nations that have lost that. So Rubio isn't calling for a nostalgia and going back to some ancient pride. He's talking about the need to recover that civilizational confidence that Europe used to have. And the question is whether or not the West, can rediscover it. And so I think this was a very important speech. I think what Rubio was doing here was really shining a light on the very core spiritual decay that underlies all of the other decay that we're seeing in Europe. And I just thought it was a very powerful speech. And again, it really emphasizes the fact that Israel is what the West should be. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Rubio's speech. Hope you found that interesting. Please make sure to like and share and subscribe and tell people what's going on this channel. Please spread the word about it. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you think of what I'm saying here. I'm fine with people disagreeing with me. I'd love to hear it. And please make sure to check out all the great content that we're putting up at the Israel 365 News YouTube channel. Now, but I want to point out very specifically, I've mentioned this before, there is in the playlist section at the Israel 365 News YouTube channel, there is a in the playlist section, there's a 6-part series, 6 short videos that's called the Superpower playlist. And it's all about Israel's rise to regional superpower status. And it really relates to what we've just been talking about the civilizational confidence and willingness to look out for your own interests and have confidence that your culture is superior to the evil culture that you're fighting. Being willing to say that and being willing to act on it and being willing to strive for victory. So go and check out that series. I think it's an important series. It lays out a lot of big ideas about where Israel is right now in the world, because there's really been a paradigm shift right under our noses. All right. Thanks for watching. God bless y'all.